Hello to our viewers, wherever you are. We welcome you this evening. My name is Rose Festus. I'm married and I'm a mother. I work in Kisii County, supporting HIV care and treatment, majorly dealing with adherence. In adherence, we normally look at retention and viral load suppression. Yeah, it is another Good Friday, and we are super excited to be here live once again, and we welcome everyone. Please just feel free to tune in. I'm here with my colleague, and he's going to introduce himself. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rose. Sorry for that. I was just acting on something. I was just correcting something. But we are now ready to go. Sorry for the hitches. My name is still Spema Loli. Thank you so much, Rose, for bringing us on board again. Rose is my colleague. We work in Kisii. I'm stationed at the Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital, offering adherence counseling. We are looking at retention and viral load suppression, and today we are privileged to be here again to talk to you. Thank you so much. I would want to celebrate even before we start. You've made it a success, and that's why we still have the zeal to continue. I don't know whether to pick it from that point, Rose.
Yes.
Today we are going to try as much as possible to be within time, and because of the public demand, we were requested again to revisit issues to do with PEP and PrEP. There were much interest in people are interested in having information about PEP and PrEP. People are asking whether they should go for PrEP or PEP. I think we are going to answer that at the end of by the time we are done with our discussion today.
Yes.
That will be covered. So last week, just to do a small recap, we had discussed a basic ways or the primary and the secondary methods of preventing one from getting the infection or transmitting the infection.
Yes.
And we differentiated. We say there is primary and there is secondary. There is one that targets the patient, somebody that is HIV positive, and there is one that targets one that is HIV negative.
Yes.
And through that, we also learn, or we also realize that each and every person has a role to play. Each and every person has a responsibility to carry. Whether you are HIV positive or negative, the role is still the same. You're either preventing yourself from getting the HIV and protecting the loved ones, or you're preventing yourself from transmitting the virus. And so today we are going to, we also talked about PEP and PrEP last time, but there was a feeling that this was not given the time that it deserved.
Exactly.
And we also want to say that we also had the same fears, but we were not able to have enough time to discuss this. So today we are going to talk about PEP and PrEP. So I will begin.
Yes.
And I will basically introduce PrEP. I'll talk about PrEP for the next few minutes. Then from that, I think my colleague will also help us understand what PEP is.
Exactly.
We'll receive questions, we'll respond to questions. We are monitoring the same from another device from our end. So thank you so much for tuning.
Thank
so
you.
Even before we begin, you may want to answer the questions of what is PrEP. We hear PrEP, we hear PEP, but even as we are concentrating more on PrEP. So what do you know about PrEP? I think somebody should be typing that definition.
Yeah.
If you're tuned, one would want to try that.
Yes.
Or even later, if you'll be watching this video later, just try to your own knowledge, your own idea of what PrEP is. There's a question that goes each and every time you hear something to do with PrEP, what comes into your mind? And even as you're typing that, even as you're answering that question, let me go straight to the definition. This is a pre-exposure prophylaxis. The word pre simply means it comes before an exposure or comes before the risky behavior. Exactly. So it's something used before. So it's just a set of medication, it's a set of ART drugs or ARVs, is a set of drugs that are taken daily. And mark my words, they are taken daily to prevent an infection. And there is a specific group that uses this, or there are people that deserve using this. I think during when we were setting this event, there was the question that who should use PrEP and who should use PrEP. And we encourage you to join this discussion even as we are looking at explaining what they are from our end.
Yeah.
So from the definition, this is something used before an infection occurs, or before not really an infection, because we are preventing an infection. So
Yeah.
you're using it to prevent an infection, but you're using it before that exposure happens. I'll take you through what would define you, or what would take you to use PrEP. So it is taken daily, and people that are using it, these are people that are on higher risk of getting infected, and they are still negative, or they are negative, not really still negative, but they are negative, but they are at risk of getting the infection. It reduces the chances. It reduces the chances of getting infection by holding or stopping the spread. Yeah, so that is the mode of action. And now the question goes straight to who should use it now. Where do we get PrEP? Where do we get PrEP? Who provides PrEP, and who should use PrEP? I think we should start with who should use PrEP.
Yeah.
So who takes PrEP, or who is eligible for PrEP, or an entry criteria for PrEP? We are talking about people, or gay people, or bisexual men, not just men, or not just gay, but mark my words, who have HIV partners, and that is, it could be one person having an HIV, who have a partner that is HIV positive, is eligible for PrEP. And I'm talking about gayism, or I'm talking about a bisexual men who have sex with a partner that is HIV positive. You have sex with multiple partners. And these multiple partners, number one, you don't know their status, or you have sex with a partner whose partner is HIV positive. So I want you to link the chain. Your partner could be negative or have unknown status. But he has another partner who is HIV positive, or who has multiple sex partners. So you know, with the bisexual, is more of a chain. And that's why it's easier even to develop a community. And I would encourage you, if you're outside there and you've not developed a community of your own, it's better you develop your community so that you get these services as a group. So you're a bisexual who have a HIV positive partner, or who have sex with a HIV positive person, or whose partner has multiple partners, or whose partner, he has a partner that is HIV positive. There's another category that you've been having maybe anal sex. If you don't know the definition of a gay, or men having sex with men, then you've had anal sex maybe for the last 6 months, or you've been having, or you are at risk, or you're doing it, and you're not using a condom. You're also eligible to get PrEP. There's another population that has been diagnosed with an STI, whether treated or not, but in most cases, if you're diagnosed, then treatment will follow in the last 6 months. You are also eligible. If my wife is pregnant, will she continue using PrEP? Thank you so much for answering that also. Diagnosed with STI in the last 6 months, you are also eligible. So we've talked about bisexuals. So it is not only meant for that community or that group. There's another group, the heterosexual, men and women, who have the following partners also. One partner is positive. I'm basically talking about a discordant couple. One partner is positive and one partner is negative. So who uses it? The negative partner. Even as you go to the bisexual, who uses it? The negative partner. Because you are at risk of, number one, being infected with your partner who is positive, and you are also at risk of getting the infection from the multiple sex partners that you may not know their status. And we understand this is a community of generosity. Heterosexual men and women who have sex with HIV positive partners, you have multiple partners, and your partner maybe inject drugs. That is another entry criteria. If your partner injects drugs, remember there is the population that inject drugs. So if you're also injecting drugs, there is also a criteria for you. If you're injecting drugs and you're sharing those equipments,
you are sharing the needles.
You are sharing the needles or any other equipment that would use to have drug in your blood system. And in most cases, they're sharp objects. So if you are injecting drugs and you're sharing this, then it's important for you to be on PEP. So that would mean that if I'm injecting drug today and I'm not at any risk, then PEP might not be, I'm not at any risk of getting infection. I'm not in the cycle of multiple sex partners. I'm not in the cycle of sharing of the shots. Then I don't really need to be on PrEP.
Yeah.
Maybe I may need something else, maybe a condom and all that. Or generally you've looked at your life, you're injecting drugs and you're at risk of getting. What I'm saying is, maybe this thing or injecting drugs deter your judgment or interferes with your judgment, and you start behaving in a risky manner, or you pose in a risky population, or you pose in a risky environment. I think you should.
Yeah.
The other population that you're talking about the bisexual, is, even as I answer, if my wife is pregnant, will she still continue to use PrEP? Yes, that is another key population that we need to look at. Women, let me answer it in this way. Women that are intending, they are planning to get pregnant, and their spouses are positive, you are eligible for PrEP. Why are you eligible for PrEP? Because remember we said that HIV infection or mother-to-child transmission may occur during pregnancy, at birth, and even during breastfeeding.
Yes.
So even as I'm answering the question from Samuel, it is a yes if your partner is HIV positive and you're intending to get pregnant. It's important to use PrEP. During pregnancy, it is important you use PrEP. And during breastfeeding also, it is important for you to use PrEP. But only if your partner is not virally suppressed. I'm not saying that if your partner is virally suppressed, you stop, because there's a clause that also says that if in any case you're planning to stop, or you cannot tolerate PrEP, and there is an intention within you that you may want to stop, then it is important you talk to your healthcare provider before you stop.
Exactly.
Which might be different from PEP, but for PrEP, it is important you talk to your healthcare provider. But again, after having information, people have the tendency of just stopping based on the information that they received before. But it's important that you may need to go back to your healthcare provider and talk about stopping. So for women whose partner are positive and are intending to get pregnant, or during pregnancy, or they are breastfeeding, it is important for you, number one, to seek PrEP, or to have PrEP as an additional preventive measure. There's other groups. I think I've majorly dwelt with the bisexual, the heterosexual, and people that inject the drugs. Those are not the only groups that are eligible for PrEP. There are so many people. But again, today we just felt like bringing that in a good way. Now, there are other group of people that may need to use PrEP. People that engage in people that transact sex. In that you have sex for you to get certain things. Is it sex for gain, or sex for money, or it is the work that you do?
Yes.
People use bad names like commercial, whatever. I don't want to use that. But you are a sex worker, as in you do sex for you to get money. You could be a male figure, or you could be a female figure. Let me just get it from Samuel. If we've answered you kindly, you can just respond if we've provided an answer. But if you're not satisfied, we can still look into that again kindly, if you don't mind. People that engage in transact sex, sex that you use sex to transact something. You're getting money, you're getting favors, you're getting so many things. As in, sex is your way of life. That is your work. You're eligible. Number one, the reason why you're eligible, I know you have a number of partners. Some of them are stable, some of them are unstable, and each and every day you could be meeting new partners. So these new partners, their status are unknown to you. And remember, when we started, we also said that if you're having sex with multiple partners with a known status, you are at risk, because you cannot go around testing everybody. If you have an history of STI, the history of STI, basically, from the word, it's sexually transmitted infection. It rings something in your brain that you've been having sex either with different partners, or your partner might have gotten the STI from another partner.
Yeah.
So already you are in a chain. Maybe you could not be the case, you're not the cause of the STI. And maybe your husband on the other side also is not the source.
Yeah.
So where is the source? So the source is somewhere. So who looked for the source? Either you or your partner. So if you're not the one, then one of you must, or in one way or the other, maybe it's not really faithful, but could be having other sex or sexual partners. So it's important for you, if you have history of a sexually transmitted infection, it's important for you, number one, to look at considering reducing your partners, considering condom use, and the other thing that you may want to reconsider or you may want to consider is using PrEP. Because maybe you are at risk also of a chain of multiple sex partners. If you're this person who uses PEP today, PEP next month, PEP the other time, as in what I'm saying is a recurrent PEP user.
Exactly.
It shows that your lifestyle or the way you are by design of your nature of work or by design of your life as a whole is at risk itself. So there is need for you also to consider if you may use PrEP instead of doing PEP. Exactly. Because I'm told, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, that PEP is used as an emergency. It is not something that you use to prevent, as much as you're preventing the infection, but you're preventing infection after an exposure, which shouldn't be the case. If you're working on prevention, that come before the infection takes place. So what are we saying? That if you're a recurrent PEP user, then you could be at risk of, number one, multiple sex partners, or you are at risk of getting infection based on your workplace or your environment. So you may need to consider using PrEP. There's people with a history of sex under use of drugs or alcohol. Immediately you use, it's the other side, sorry. Just a minute. Not that one, the other side. Yeah, sorry for that. I was somewhere. But if you have a history of having sex under an influence of maybe drug or alcohol, number one, you may need to look at yourself, and there's what we call the cage, or there's a tool that somebody would want to use to know whether you are in a risky behavior while using these drugs or alcohol, or you are a responsible drinker, or you use your drug responsibly. So if they may take you to have sex under their influence, then there is need to question the lifestyle within you, or there is need to question your environment. Maybe you're using them in a different environment and they keep on exposing you. So if you are a continuous user, I want somebody to get it clear.
Get it right.
I'm trying to use a more basic definition, but what I'm saying is, if you have an history of sex under use of drug or alcohol, then you are this person who should be in a position to consider. And remember, before you also start, please, you need to talk to your healthcare provider. So it's not just a matter of considering and starting. You talk to a health provider, and a health provider will equally look at the entry criteria. If you really meet the entry criteria, or there is something that you can still do before you consider using PrEP. People with no condom use, I think we talked about it. Or you're using condom today, tomorrow you feel like I don't need to use a condom. You've never embraced condom use, or you're not in any position to embrace condom use. There is need to consider using PrEP. Discordant couple, we talked about it. Trying to conceive, we talked about it. Ongoing GBV or gender-based violence, and in most cases we're talking about intimate partner violence. And when we're talking about gender-based violence, I want to look at sexual bit of it, and this would lead to maybe your partner going out to look for some other partners and all that. So if you're in continuous exposure, or you're a victim of gender-based violence, an ongoing gender-based violence, which might put you into the risk of getting infection, there is need for you also to consider doing PrEP.
Yeah.
Now, someone would want to ask, I've not exhausted each and every person, but at least those are some of the few or some of the major categories that one would want to consider before using PrEP. But if you think your lifestyle, or if you think you as a person, you are on a continuous exposure, please, there is need to talk to your healthcare provider if you may want to use PrEP or not.
Oh, yes.
Somebody would want to ask, or I don't know whether you have a question for me also, or I just continue?
Just continue.
Thank you. How well does PrEP work?
Okay.
Number one, it works.
Yes.
For it to be a method, and actually, if we for our own quest for knowledge, it's important to know that those are one of the major methods that one would want to use. Actually, condom could be the first one if it is correctly used, because it offers direct barrier, as in there's a barrier that you can see. It's a physical barrier.
Yes.
So unless it is broken, not used correctly, or all that, or during removal, and I promise to do a condom demonstration, which will allow me to do maybe next time,
Yeah, we will.
so that you will realize that people may use condom, but you get the infection during removal alone. So you may use it properly, but during removal you get infected.
Exactly.
It's effective when taken daily. It is less effective when you don't adhere to it. I think those are two statements that one would want to really write down. That is PrEP really effective? My answer is yes. To what percentage I'm going to talk about that. But even to that percentage still, it is only effective when it is used daily. And just like any other ARVs, look at your timing also. If you need to set an alarm for it, you may want to set an alarm for it. If you want to get a treatment supporter for it, you may want to get a treatment supporter for it. If you think that you as a person, you have problems remembering things or taking drugs, you may need to look at yourself and find a motivation within you. Because for any one person to be on a chronic treatment, or to be on a treatment that is long term, because you may want to use PrEP as long as you're still in that kind of exposure that you are in today. So for one to be on such kind of treatment, you may need a motivation. You may need something that tells you why you should be taking this medication. And now these are the percentages. It reduces up to, actually not up to, more than 90%. I'm not talking about 100%, but I'm saying for that person that, in this case I may call a general population, for now it reduces more than 90%. When used effectively. So effectiveness is based on adherence to that daily peg. It is just a pill daily. So its effectiveness is pegged on its adherence. Then it reduces the risk of infection by more than 70% for people who inject drugs. So you're again looking at your population, and you're looking at the better options for you, or best options for you.
Yes.
I think I'm right up to that point. So if you inject drugs, then you're talking about more than 70%. So you're still thinking of what happens to the 25%, what happens to the 10, what happens to the 15, or to the 30%, depending on what protection it will give you. So what happens? Can I still get the HIV if the less than 30% is not covered? It's a yes and it's a no. So based on your own population, you may need to look at it. It gives me up to 90%. What else should I do to get the 2% that is remaining? What else should I do for me to get the less than 30% that is remaining? And somebody again is starting thinking, you should be thinking about sex, you should be thinking about, let my partner become virally suppressed. Yes, let my partner become virally suppressed. Then it does not protect. So how well does it work? It works the way I've talked about. And mark it that it does not protect one against getting this sexually transmitted infection or diseases. So please, like any other thing, like using family planning, it does not prevent you from getting the STI. If you have a problem, this is the point that I wanted to make as I finish. If you have a problem, or if you feel like you want to stop taking PrEP, there is need to talk to your healthcare provider. Somebody would want to ask, do they have side effects? Yes, One of the side effects that is majorly reported is feeling nausea, like you feel like you want to vomit, but in most cases you will not vomit. It is never severe, or it might not be severe, but this one depends from person to person. One gets better after a while, so don't expect to get better today after starting it or tomorrow. It's after some time, maybe 2-3 days or a week or 2 weeks, depending on person to person. So PrEP is effective. Its effectiveness is pegged on adherence to it. It is used to prevent an infection that has not occurred, but somebody is at risk of getting the same infection.
Exactly.
I don't know if you will allow me to stop at that point.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. Post your questions. Tiffany, I don't know whether we answered you.
What is Tiffany saying?
Tiffany asked if, like, my wife is pregnant, will she continue to use PrEP? It's yes, Tiffany, as long as she's still at risk of getting infected. Maybe the spouse, or I know you are asking on behalf of somebody, on behalf of a bigger population. Yes, she will continue using this PrEP until an exit of an exposure. So an exit of an exposure is this: maybe the husband is very suppressed, or you don't stay together, or you're not engaging into sex, or you've resolved in using maybe condom, because now you're pregnant, we're not looking for a child again, so let us do condom all through. So there are 3 things that one would want to talk about: condom, PEP, and PrEP. I think next week we should talk about condom.
Yeah.
I really want to demonstrate how to use a condom.
Yeah, we will.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Pam. Oh wow, was a wonderful presentation, and I want to believe that our viewers today, you are getting it right. What is PrEP? And we continue to welcome everybody on board. Please join us in this noble discussion. It is helpful to you and to everyone outside there. And we want to thank you, Samuel, Tiffany.
No, it's the same person that asked about.
For joining. Thank you for being together with us, and thank you for that question. It is very helpful. Yeah, thank you so much, Pam. We discussed these 2 things last week, and as my colleague has said, that due to public demand, it was demanded that we come back and we explain it better for our viewers to understand. And I want to believe up to that moment that my colleague Pam has discussed about PrEP, you've already understood what PrEP is. So we are quickly going to look at PEP now, STEM, and we want.
I forgot to mention something. Now that you've just talked about PEP, and I'm seeing you looking at the timeline, there's a question that I maybe did not answer. I'm sorry for coming in again. The issue of when should I start using should be talked about, preferably 7 days before an exposure. But now the questions would arise for somebody that is under gender-based violence, continuous, or an ongoing gender-based violence, or an ongoing injection of drugs, or an ongoing sex with multiple partners. If you have an exposure, it is important to address that exposure first. So immediately you finish addressing the exposure, then you may want to begin PrEP. If you are still on the ongoing exposure, or if you are planning, or if you know that I'm going to be exposed, maybe in the next week my husband is coming. I know that he traveled, or my wife traveled, they're coming back, I don't know their viral load, they have not shared, and I know we'll be having sex. There's need to go look for this PrEP. You will get tested, you'll talk to a healthcare provider, we'll look at the entry criteria, then you'll be initiated on PrEP. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I want to say that it is good that you've explained that one, because maybe they could have asked at what time I should start using PrEP. Yes, to our viewers, we are here to answer all your questions, and please just be free to type them down there and show us that you are together with us.
Yes.
And yes, spam. When we posted this, a friend asked me what is PEP and what is PrEP, and I want to believe that you've already, if you are watching, you've already gotten what PrEP is, and I'm going to talk about PEP, and we are going to look at the definition of PEP first. So PEP is post-exposure prophylaxis.
Yes.
Post-exposure prophylaxis, meaning after. It is different with PrEP, which is before. So this is after. So it is after what? It is after the exposure.
Yes.
Yeah. You are outside there. Maybe you've been exposed to rape. Yeah. Those are the eligible criteria that we are going to look at when we are talking about post-exposure prophylaxis.
Yes.
You've been exposed to rape. Maybe somebody, a friend or maybe a relative has been exposed to rape. And as we talked last week, Spam, we said, rape is not something that you can plan, that I am going to be raped. Raping is coming when you don't know it is coming. So when you are raped, what are you supposed to do? Yeah. And again, we are looking at the second criteria, the eligibility criteria, as to why somebody should consider taking post-exposure prophylaxis when you've been engaged in unsafe, unprotected sex. Yeah, maybe you had sex with, let's say, somebody that you don't know his or her status. You don't know whether this person is HIV positive and maybe is not suppressing or maybe using medication, something like that, and you've had sexual intercourse with this person without protection. Maybe without using condom. So
without
maybe
using PrEP.
And something
You are not
like
on
that.
PrEP.
So you are exposed. It is already done, right? And another condition, maybe you are in the process of having sex and you are using condom and the condom has busted.
Okay, there's condom burst.
There is condom burst.
This is the main reason why we may need to discuss this condom.
Yeah.
Because condom does not burst. From my experience, I'm not saying that I'm a condom user, but okay, maybe I've used or not.
Condom
but from
can
my experience,
burst during the sexual intercourse, depending on how
it's done.
Yeah, because sometimes there are some people sperm when they are having sex. I can imagine maybe you like you are too rough.
We'll discuss that next week.
Yeah, maybe you are too rough.
You'll realize that the condom user
you didn't put it well, so it can burst. And my colleague and I, we will demonstrate how condom is well what
well put in use.
It's well put in use.
It's not very
So those are the eligible criteria that can take somebody to take or to begin using PEP. We said it is rape, unprotected sex, and condom burst. Then there is sharp injuries. My colleague had already tackled that. We have sharp injuries at home or maybe at workplaces, and maybe you used these sharp injuries and somebody had already used them and you didn't know, and now you are eligible. I mean, you are at risk. Already you are at risk because you didn't know who used this sharp injury. And again, we have physical assault. Physical assault, sperm, to me it can be a situation of gender-based violence. Maybe you are fighting, people fight outside there, you are fighting and you don't know you've been injured, or somebody has just has done what? Has bite you.
Human bite.
Human bite. So you know, when you are bite and the blood comes out, you don't know this person who has done it, you don't know the status.
Yes.
And this one, you are at risk, and it is already happened. So what I wanted to bring home to our viewers, that when we talk about post-exposure prophylaxis is also a type of ARV. Yes, it is just a type of ARVs that people take. It is a tablet. Yeah, it is a regimen that people
One
take.
time.
Yeah,
It could
so
be one. It could be depending on.
yes.
Yes.
So it is just a regimen. It is ARV regimen. Yeah, that people take. So when you are exposed already, what do you do after maybe getting exposure to everything that we've discussed? You've been sexually assaulted. You've used sharp injuries that you don't know the person who had already used it. What is the condition? You've already involved yourself in unprotected sex, and maybe you are in that process of having sex and the condom burst, and you've been raped without your knowledge, and now you've been exposed. What are you supposed to do? You are supposed to visit hospital.
Yes.
And when you visit hospital, I want to tell you that it is not that when you do the visit, we will just look at you and begin giving you PEP. No. We will examine. There is a test that will be done, and during that time, maybe you've already exposed yourself and you are traumatized, you are going through a lot of stress. We will do some counseling for you. And like in rape cases, somebody can be raped until you are unconscious.
True.
And you don't understand yourself. You've been taken to the hospital, and you are in the hand of the healthcare workers. You are unconscious, you don't know what's happening. You see, we will examine what is important for you, because we don't say that it is a must that after exposing yourself to all these situations, it is a must that you have to do. You have to take PEP. So you will be examined, you will be taken through counseling. Depending on the status where you are, you will be taken through counseling. And this counseling, we have pre-counseling and we have post-counseling. When you are tested, and when the test turn negative and already you are at risk, you will be considered to take PEP. And at what time?
Do I
STEM? No, not stopping. At what time? At what time should I take? Should I consider myself like it is the safest time to start taking PEP, right?
Yes.
So PEP, once you've been exposed to these risky behaviors, maybe you are fighting, you've been bite, rape, and unsafe sex and all that, it is advised that you take it within 72 hours, right? In 72 hours, you should take, or you should have started taking PEP. Yeah, because when it is past 72 hours, then when we are talking about the effectiveness, maybe it might not be effective enough.
Yes.
Yeah. And again, I wanted our viewers to know that PEP, it is only taken with the people who are HIV negative.
Yes.
Once you've been exposed to these all situations and you come for tests and the results turns out to be positive, then you are not supposed to be initiated in PEP.
Yes.
You can only be initiated in PEP when you are negative. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know whether I'm bringing it home right.
Right.
Yeah, and PEP should be initiated to negative HIV clients for 28 days after confirmation, right? When you've been confirmed that you've been raped, you've been having unsafe sex, the condom burst, and maybe you are traumatized and you've been taken through counseling, and we found that you are eligible for this. We will give you PEP, and it is taken for 28 days. And again, for this thing to be effective, just as my colleague Pam talked about adherence, for it to be effective, you have to adhere. Adherence means there is time that you have to take your medication. It is not that when you are given eligible for PEP and you've been given PEP and you've been told that you are going to use this PEP for 28 days, now when you wake up, you just take it the way you want. It won't be effective. So what you need to do, you have to adhere. For it to be effective, you have to take it at a particular time. If maybe you said that I have to take it at 8 o'clock, then it should be that. And then you take it every day for the 28 days. Yeah.
I think that is so clear.
Yeah, it is so clear.
The only thing that is bridging the two gaps is, number one, for you to be on PrEP or PEP, number one criteria is you must be negative.
Exactly.
Criteria number two, an exposure must have happened, or you are presuming, or you are under an ongoing exposure. For instance, you've said, and we've captured it, that some things may happen, maybe rape, maybe condom burst, all that is already an exposure that has happened. So there is an exposure. I'm having a partner that is HIV positive. That one alone is an exposure. So I'm using PrEP. The one that already received the exposure, the one that already came into contact with a situation that would lead to change of HIV status from negative to positive, may want to use PEP to prevent the change for the change of that HIV status.
Yeah.
So I think that is so good.
Yeah, thank you so much, Spam. And remember, these are HIV infection prevention.
Yes.
And they are under either primary infection prevention or secondary infection prevention. These are ways just to prevent one from getting HIV infected.
Which makes them more of primary than secondary. Because this is you going for them. Number one, to do what? To prevent yourself. And let me remind our viewers, because of time, let me just remind you the reason why we are coming live each and every day or every Friday. Number one, let us have this treatment literacy public for us to develop what we call the health seeking behavior, a personal health seeking behavior.
Exactly.
So that if you get it on your own, you'll be in a position to sustain it. You go for what you know, not being pumped with a service that you really don't know. So I think that is our main aim, and that is our main vision also. Vision and mission for this program is just to create that health seeking behavior, bring this knowledge to you, and I think we'll have a society that will be changed. If there is any question, any clarification, if there is need that we repeat this again, trust me, we will repeat it again. And thank you so much for watching, even as I'm getting it back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pam. I just wanted to bring home to our viewers that it is important, just as my colleague has said, to practice safe sex practices to protect us from getting infection. Yeah. So when we are talking about PEP and PrEP, those two things are very important. Yeah, because they help in prevention.
Yes.
They help us. And maybe somebody is outside there and asking himself or herself that is these things really a must?
Yes.
Yeah, they are a must. They are good. They protect you from being infected. So if you've been exposed to any risky behavior it is important for you to seek medical attention. It is important for you to go to the healthcare facility and be advised by healthcare worker.
Have a discussion.
Yeah, just
have a discussion with your healthcare provider on the possibility of using or not using PrEP.
Exactly.
And PEP. Just have a discussion.
Yeah.
Have a discussion when beginning and have a discussion when stopping. It is something that is just going into my mind again. Immediately you finish your 28 days, it is important to still have a discussion with your healthcare provider. Because again, if we let everything into the public, then people will be treating their own selves. So it's important after you are done, kindly have a discussion with
that's why I said SPEM, that counseling, we do counseling before we initiate you in PEP. So we do pre-counseling and we do post-counseling. In post-counseling, we are doing follow-up. Okay, you've been exposed, maybe rape, or you are having sex, unprotected sex, or maybe the condom has busted, or maybe you are using a sharp object. And you know, all these things does not mean that you are now HIV positive. Maybe you could be having sex, yes, and this person is not HIV positive. Maybe you've been raped, and this person who has raped you is not HIV positive, right? So when you come to the facility and you have a talk with the healthcare provider, we will be able to examine, and for you to be protected, once you've been exposed, we will initiate you in PEP, right? SPEM,
because
and
of exposure,
through counseling, and it is a thorough counseling, and it is a pre-counseling. And after 28 days of using PEP, we advise that you come back to the facility to do that post-counseling, just to do a retest. To find out your situation. If you are tested and the result comes out to be negative, then you stop using PEP. And if it is positive, you also stop using PEP, and you are initiated in ARVs drugs.
Which brings the question, is it possible for me to be positive while on PEP or while on PrEP? We'll answer that next week. Stay tuned. We'll begin from that point, and I promise that we'll do a condom demonstration. Can someone be positive while on PEP or PrEP? I don't know. Go and look for the answers. We'll meet next week.
Thank you so much, our viewers. Thank you, Jared Omolo, tuning in all the way from Kisumu. Thank you so much. We appreciate your presence. And Samuel, Tiffany, thank you so much for tuning in, and all our viewers who have liked. We can see so many likes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. And up to this moment, we say God.
Before we say bye-bye and before we say God is good, we are in Kisi County, and thank you so much, Kisi County, for allowing us to use some of your facilities to bring this life. Thank you so much, Kenya, Ministry of Health. Otherwise, we're going to but thank you so much for allowing us to bring this to the public. Thank you so much, the program that supports us, where we work at our workstations. Thank you, UNB, led by Dr. Angela,
University of Maryland,
in collaboration with the MWAT. Thank you so much. For the last few episodes, we've not thanked our Casco. So far, she has not stopped us from continuing. So thank you so much, Madam Casco. That is Florence. And thank you so much. Thank your family, my family, my friends, everybody. Thank you so much for staying tuned. And let's meet again next week, even as we continue this noble discussion. Be free to suggest, be free to comment, be free to correct, and be free to be part of this team. We are heroes. You are a hero. We want to make a world of heroes. Thank you so much, and from my side is bye-bye.
God bless you.
Amen.